Some of the things aren't pleasant in history. History is not meant to be pleasant, but really ask the tough questions and you'll understand it at the end. It was a very small town, Polish Catholic community, and when I was a young kid, my father went to prison. And when he was in prison, I asked my grandmother, who was in California, what can I do? What do I do? I was confused, I was scared, and she said, well, all you can do is pray. You just have to ask Jesus to be with him and to help. And so I didn't understand that. So I went to the one local church, the only church in our little town, and when my father came home from prison, he came in the room I shared with my several brothers, and he kind of gave me his stern look like he always did, and he says, well, I heard you've been going to church. And I said, yes, sir. And well, at that point, he put the Book of Mormon on the foot of my bed, and he said, well, you should read this. This is for you. Go ahead and read it. And he never brought it up again. And then the next time that anything about the church was really mentioned was when the Pope died. And I came home distraught. It was, my teachers were crying, my friends were upset, and I said, Dad, the Pope died. He didn't even look up from his checkbook when he said, that's okay, Hinckley talks to God anyways. And my mother kind of gave him the look, and so I knew, I'm not going to ask about that. I don't know what it means, but I'm just not going to ask. And then when he passed away, I received his personal effects, his paperwork and mementos and other things, and I found his baptism certificate from 1960 when he was 8 years old, having been raised in the church. And that was really profound to know that he was a member of a church, and he never talked about it, he never brought it up. He was very private and personal when it came to things like that. And then I started working on my own family tree and learning my history, and I had a cousin of mine who reached out. He's a member of the church, he lives out in Idaho, and he sent me a link to find my local ward. And I just kind of blew it off. I didn't think much of it. I thought, we don't go to church, it's not something we really do. And then the same day, later that afternoon, I saw a local elder was giving away Bibles on Facebook, and he was kind of being bullied in the comment section. People kind of beating up on him, and I was like, well, this isn't right. There's nothing wrong with the Bible. I own a couple of them. I keep one on my nightstand, one on the bookshelf, and so I reached out to him and kind of said, hey, keep up the good work. You're doing, what you're doing is good. And they invited me to church, and it just so happened to be the same church that my cousin invited me to find. And at that point, I honestly thought, what a coincidence. Something, multiple things in the same day drawing me in the same direction. I've learned now that there are no coincidences. It's not coincidence. Over the next few months, I got to meet with the elders on a regular basis and, changed some of my habits. I started smoking. My first cigarette, I was in the 4th grade. And by the time I was 12, I was a regular smoker. And, I was a heavy smoker for a really long time. And then the missionaries came with their stop smoking program. And I thought, well, I've tried every gimmick, every book you can read. I've read it. I've tried everything, the patches, the pills, the lozenges, tried it all. It worked. I went from smoking all the time to not wanting to smoke. It took a few months, but I ended up being baptized, and, it really lined up with the things I already believed about Christ and about God, and so it was a really warm feeling. It felt great to be there, and the things that I heard made sense. It put things in perspective, and I'd never experienced that in a church before. We were always taught that, well, if you don't accept Jesus, then you go to hell, and that's the end of it. And that never really made sense. It never sat right. It didn't feel right. As I've known plenty of great people that were atheists, they were agnostic, they were Jewish, and it's like, well, it's not right. And then, what I learned from the missionaries is that, well, when you're on the other side of the veil, you still have a chance to learn about Christ, and you have a chance to accept him, and, it's not over. That, and, to hear that, well, I was a pre-mortal spirit, that I existed before this world. It was like a light bulb that, I've seen all these things about spirits and I've always believed in it. And it's like, well, if you can be a spirit after this life, it makes sense that you were a spirit before this life. I existed before. Some of the things aren't pleasant in history. History is not meant to be pleasant, but really ask the tough questions and you'll understand it at the end. I can truly testify that if you read the Book of Mormon and you pray and you ask, is this the word? Is this true? You will be told in one way or another. You'll feel it inside. You'll think about it. It just sets right. If you truly seek the wisdom and you ask, it will be revealed. There's no way around it.